Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Ticking Together. As always, the goal of this channel is to provide education about and to raise awareness as to what it's like living with Tourette syndrome. In today's video, I'm going to talk briefly about tic suppression. Now, for those of you that don't know what tic suppression is, it is basically holding in or holding back on letting out a tic. And for those of you that don't know what tics are, they are basically involuntary movements, sounds, or thoughts that people like me with Tourette syndrome cannot control. So suppression is holding in something that is pretty much natural to us. So I'm going to start off with an analogy that I think is very helpful to help you guys understand why I think tic suppression is so bad. So I want you to imagine a tic as breathing. It sounds silly, but bear with me. Breathing is something you do every single day without a thought. It is just natural. It is what you have to do to basically just function through the day. You can't live without breathing. And so I want you to imagine holding your breath for as long as you can. Some people may take 20 to 30 seconds, maybe a minute. You can't hold your breath for very long, realistically, until you have to let it out and take in another breath, because breathing is necessary and it is natural. Thinking about holding your breath is very, very challenging, because when you hold your breath, you're automatically thinking like, when can I take that next breath? And it becomes very uncomfortable. It can even become painful, and it becomes just very, very not good. And while you're holding your breath, you lose your focus and your ability to concentrate, because you're just concentrating on waiting to get that next breath. You're concentrating on holding in your breath for as long as you can. Now, this is where the tic analogy comes into play. Imagine holding in a tic as holding in your breath. Tics to people with Tourette syndrome are as natural and as common as breathing. They're involuntary. We do them every single day. It's something that just happens for us. And so when you tell us to hold them in or to suppress them, it's the same sensation as holding in your breath. Sure, it is possible. You can do it for a little bit. It varies between individual to individual, but tic suppression is possible, but it is extremely detrimental to the mental health of the individual. So with tic suppression, you're getting that same feeling of holding in your breath. You are feeling discomfort, you may be even feeling pain, and most of the time you are lacking in concentration and ability to focus, because you're focusing solely on not ticking and waiting until you can release that tic in a comfortable way. Now, I hope this made sense to you, because holding in your breath isn't something you should be rewarded for. It's not something that you should encourage unless like you're in a breath holding competition, but that's not that common. So unless it's like 100% necessary, you shouldn't be holding your breath, and as a result you shouldn't be holding in your tics. Like, it's not good for you. Another thing that's really important to note is when you hold in your tics, it's like a buildup of wanting to tic even more. So for example, going back to the breath analogy, when you hold in your breath, the next breath in you take is like it's a big breath, because you've been suppressing your breathing for so long, and you want that next one to be so worth it, and you want to get all the breath in you can because you've been holding back on breathing, and it's like you need to get in a deep breath or else you're not going to feel good. And this relates to tics as well. When you hold in your tics, it's a buildup, and once you're able to release them again and let them out, you're gonna have a lot more tics. It's gonna be the equivalent of that humongous deep breath. It's gonna be a lot of tics. And quite often, this can lead to a tic attack, which is horrible, and I do not encourage that. They're the worst things ever to deal with, and this is mainly why you shouldn't suppress your tics. Like, it's not a good idea. Some people have parents or guardians who encourage them to hold in their tics because it's better and it lessens like the staring and like the focus on the tics, and that's not good either. You shouldn't reward individuals for not ticking. It's the same as rewarding individuals for not breathing. Would you do that? Ticking is natural. It is something we have to do. It's as involuntary as breathing. When we do it, we don't think about it, it just happens. And so I would highly encourage you, if you're watching this with Tourette syndrome or without, please let out your tics, and please stop encouraging us to suppress our tics. I guess what we can do moving forward is to, instead of encouraging people to suppress their tics, to perhaps encourage people to accept themselves more and to feel comfortable with ticking. This is part of destigmatizing Tourette syndrome, because like, As we all know, there's a negative stigma behind it, but if people were able to go around and tick freely, like, I guarantee you it would be a better world. And sure, tics can be distracting for other people and they may be annoying, but I can guarantee you they're way more annoying for us than they will ever be for you. So with all that being said, I just wanted to remind you guys that tic suppression isn't a good thing. I have a whole video on how I hid my tics from everyone for years by suppressing, and it really affected me in a horribly negative way. So I'll link that up there if you want to watch it, and I highly don't recommend doing what I did. This is kind of a learning story for you guys if you want to watch that, because I learned the hard way. Letting out tics is important. Tics are involuntary, and just as you shouldn't be holding your breath for long periods, you shouldn't be holding in tics for long periods. So I hope that covered the basics of tic suppression for you guys and how it's a negative thing. With tic suppression can come pain, discomfort, lack of focus, lack of concentration, and even more tic attacks once you let out your tics, which is just awful. So I hope you learned something in this video. If you did, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel, because the goal of this channel here is to break the stigma surrounding Tourette syndrome, as well as providing you all with education and awareness to the best of my knowledge. If you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you would give it a thumbs up and leave a comment down below saying hi, tell me what you want to see in future videos, or letting me know what your opinions are on tic suppression. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great night.